Good morning. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach, a life coach, and the host of this show, to Take You Back Today radio show combined with the YouTube video show. Folks, this beautiful Saturday morning, how does stress relate to drug abuse? Stress is the body's response to outside events or changes, and it may be the result of a single event or an ongoing issue. These events or changes can be good or bad, such as starting a new school, getting married, having a baby, an illness, the death of a loved one, moving, divorce, or getting into an accident. The National Institute of Mental Health, otherwise known as the NIMH, reports that there are three main types of stress. Routine stress from everyday events, stress resulting from a sudden negative change, or stress as a result of a traumatic event. When a person feels stressed, changes happen in their mind and body. In some cases, these changes can even be life-saving as a brain engages its fight or flight reaction in times of high stress or when it perceives itself to be in danger. Heart rate accelerates, blood pressure spikes, body temperature and respiration rates increase, focus, attention, and the sense of become dialed in, and the need to sleep and eat are diminished. Everyone copes with stress in a different way, and in some people they may resort to manipulative measures of managing stress, which may include abusing drugs. Stress can increase the odds that a person will use drugs. In fact, those exposed to stress are more likely to use mind-altering substances than that. The National Institute of Drug, the NIDA, warns. My friends, stress is not always good. However, chronic stress can have numerous negative effects on the mind and the body, including the following: back pain, high blood pressure, possibly, maybe difficulty sleeping, appetite and weight changes, possibly lowered immune system functions, headaches, diabetes, depression and anxiety disorders, anger, irritability and hostility, irregular heart functions, and heart disease. Stress may also magnify problematic drug use and be a contributing factor in the onset of addiction. The Annals of New York Academy of Science publishes that stress is widely accepted risk factor for addiction. People who battle addiction may also be more vulnerable to stress. While drugs may provide a temporary respite for stress, in the long run, drug abuse actually makes stress more pronounced and leads to a variety of physical and emotional, behavioral, and social concerns. Friends, stress, drugs, and the brain. This is a great topic. Listen up now. Drugs can enact chemical changes in the brain by activating some of the brain's chemical messengers involved in emotional regulation, memory and learning, impulse control, decision-making, happiness, and stress management. Central nervous system depressant drugs, such as opiates, on painkillers and heroin, and anti-anxiety medication, sedatives, and tranquilizers, slow down the heart and respiration rate, body temperature, and blood pressure, enhancing relaxation and sedation. Sedative and tranquilizing drugs increase levels of gamma-aminobutyric acid in the brain. GABA slows down the stress response and depresses the fight or flight reaction, reducing stress and anxiety and making these substances a potential target of abuse. Individuals suffering from high levels of stress or chronic stress may use these drugs as a method of managing these symptoms. Individuals who may have difficulties managing stress, poor coping mechanism, and inability to control impulse may be at heightening risk to then use drugs as a result. Drugs can provide an escape from reality while intoxicated and serve to mitigate stress temporarily. When someone is stressed, levels of adrenaline and norepinephrine are elevated, which can increase energy and excitement levels, decrease a person's appetite, and help them to stay awake longer. Stimulant drugs like cocaine, prescription ADHD medications, and methamphetamines are similar effects on the brain and body. For some, these effects may be desirable but addictive. Most drugs are also on the reward and pleasure center in the brain, causing a burst of euphoria or high levels of dopamine and serotonin are increased tremendously in time, and with repeated drug use, the brain can rely on the drugs to keep levels of its chemical messengers balanced, and drug dependency is often the result. Addiction comes in hand. When someone is dependent on drugs, cravings and drug withdrawal symptoms can be significant when the drugs are not active in the bloodstream. Drug withdrawal symptoms are often in opposition to the drug's desirable effects. Insomnia, depression, physical side effects, and increased levels of anxiety, stress are often the result the people who struggle with drug dependence may resort to and continue drug abuse to keep these side effects at bay. Chronic drugs use can actually heighten and exacerbate stress and can lead to a loss of control over when drugs are used and depending on what amounts. Addiction and stress, my friends. Addiction and stress. Similar parts of the brain may be involved in why some people may be more prone to drug abuse and addiction and to high levels of stress and level. Stress initiates the release of the stress hormone called cortisol in the brain. According to information published in the journal Psychology Today, cortisol can damage healthy brain structure, connectivity, and function in the case of chronic stress. Regions of the brain related to memory and learning, some of the same parts impacted by drug abuse and addiction, are negatively affected with continual levels of high stress and the presence of cortisol. Exposure to stress, particularly at the young age when the brain is still developing, can damage parts of the brain that may then make a person more vulnerable to drug abuse and addiction. In a similar fashion, drug abuse at the young age increases the odds that a person will suffer from addiction later, much later in life sometimes. Matter of fact, in 2013, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health warns this. Mental illness can be a risk factor for addiction and vice versa. Drugs may commonly be a form of self-medication for mental illness. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America, otherwise known as ADAA, reports that someone who battles a mood or anxiety disorder is between 2 and 3 times more likely to also suffer from drug and or alcohol addiction at some point in life. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a form of anxiety disorder that happens when a person is a victim or witness to a potentially life-threatening event and then suffers from flashbacks, reoccurrences, symptoms, and an inability to turn off the stress response for the extended time afterwards. PTSD is a common risk factor for drug abuse. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, otherwise known as the VA, reports that 2 out of every 10 veterans suffering from PTSD also battle addiction, while 1 out of every 3 who are treated for addiction also suffer from PTSD. Stress may trigger drug abuse, and regular drug abuse may induce higher levels of stress. When combined, stress and drug abuse are not a good mix. Together, they increase negative physical and emotional health outcomes and increase a person's vulnerability to addiction, which brings a host of additional social and behavioral concerns. Effective stress management techniques can detract from a person's desire to use drugs and therefore promote a better quality of life. Proper nutrition, healthy sleep patterns, exercise, and mindfulness, meditation are all holistic and complementary forms of managing stress. Making healthy social connections can also help to lower stress levels. Drug rehab can provide tools for learning healthy coping mechanisms and stress management methods that can be beneficial to sustaining sobriety and a more balanced life. If a person is suffering from drug abuse and high levels of stress, treatment can help if you seek it. It's not too late to start over. Never too late. Take action right now and call me at 844-405-HELP, because together you and I, we can talk about this. We can help each other take our lives back. Be good to yourselves, be good to other people, and remember, a simple smile to a total stranger can change that stranger's life forever, and it can also change yours. May God bless you, may God bless America, and stay away from drugs and alcohol. Remember, my new book coming out next year is called Hugs, Say Yes to